Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to America once again. We're going to go out to the west coast to the state of California, and we're going to return to a brewery who I only featured for the first time here on the channel a couple of videos back, but I really enjoyed the last beer that I had from these guys, so I'm curious to see how this one turns out, because this is basically a special edition of that last one that we reviewed, and it's particularly appropriate for the day that this video is going to publish. So for this review then, we are going to go to Santa Rosa, a little bit to the north of San Francisco and a bit to the west of Sacramento, and we're going to visit Russian River Brewing Company once again. This particular beer is the Pliny for President. It's basically the double dry hopped version of the famous Pliny the Elder, which we reviewed, as I said, a couple of videos back, and that was an awesome beer, so I'm very curious about this. But this one is a double dry hopped West Coast double IPA coming in at 8% ABV. So yeah, as I say, I thought this would be a very appropriate review to publish on the 3rd of November 2020 when America is electing their new president, or re-electing the president. But I have to say, electing Pliny to be president wouldn't be such a bad idea. I don't think the Americans have had such good choices for presidents over the last kind of couple of elections, if you like. So yeah, maybe think about this. Nominate Pliny for president the next time round. But yeah, this one should be a really interesting beer. I really enjoyed the Pliny the Elder, like I said, a real kind of classic West Coast IPA, that one. And I have to say, that really showed me how the American brewed West Coast IPAs can be quite bready, whereas most of the ones that I'd been used to before that had been quite big and oily, if you like, the big oily, more caramelly leaning ones. So I was curious about that. That really kind of struck my curiosity, I have to say, to see that this the American brewed ones could in fact be quite bready with the crystal and the two-row malts as well. So yeah, very, very curious to see how this one turns out, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. Once again, a massive shout out and thank you to Chris Contreras, an American dude living in Belgium who travels the world with his work. He goes and visits lots of different breweries, he takes a lot of beer home, and then he sends some of it to me here in Sweden to review for you guys. So a lot of these crazy American beers that you guys see me reviewing, that is thanks to Chris. So Chris, huge thank you to you once again, and dude, I seriously hope you enjoy this review as well. So yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out. And yeah, these the Lawson's Finest Liquids, the Treehouse stuff, the Trilliums and all these kind of things, a lot of the stuff that you've seen from the very hyped breweries in the States is thanks to Chris. So it's awesome to have subscribers like that who do help you out and review these kind of crazy beers. And for me, reviewing these American ones is quite interesting because it really helps me see that the European breweries are brewing stuff at similar quality to what's happening in America, which is very kind of satisfying, if you like. But yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Russian River Brewing Company before, and you will hopefully see some more beers from these guys in the near future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the American beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to very regularly because we are getting a wider selection of American beers over here in Scandinavia at the moment. And yeah, Chris obviously is sending me some really good ones as well. But as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Russian River Brewing then, on to my brewery notes. So Russian River Brewing was originally founded back in 1997 as the beer brewery for the Korbel champagne sellers from Guerneville in California, but these days the company is based in Santa Rosa, which, as I mentioned earlier, is to the north of San Francisco and the west of Sacramento in Northern California. But Korbel hired Vinny Chilurzo as their brewmaster, and he'd worked on his parents' wine business and on their kind of winery, if you like, for quite a number of years. But then he brewed beers at Blind Pig Brewing Company, who are now defunct, and it was there that he was apparently credited with having developed the double IPA style. And from the early days, this brewery, under the name Russian River, they were brewing both ales and sour beers. But later in 2002, Korbel decided that they wanted to leave the beer brewing business, and so they sold the company to Vinny and his wife Natalie. So they expanded the original brewery in 2004, and then they moved to a new new site in Santa Rosa a bit later in 2008. The brew pub composed a 20 barrel system along with a 50 barrel production kit, and they upgraded this again in 2014. But these guys, I would say, are still quite a small scale brewery compared to some of the other ones in California, such as Sierra Nevada. You know, those guys are probably the kind of iconic West Coast American craft brewery, if you like. But they started planning a second brewery in Windsor in 2016, but this was disrupted by the Sonoma County fires in 2017, quite a famous wine county that actually, but they eventually got the new brewery up and running and opened in September of 2018, and this new facility composed 85,000 square feet of floor space, and it's got a maximum potential capacity of around 60,000 barrels of beer per year, but they're currently producing in the region of 40,000 per year. But over the years this brewery has become very highly decorated. The Pliny the Younger Triple IPA is their most coveted beer, and that's one, as I say, that I would love to review at some point in the future. I think that is very, very seasonal and very difficult to get though. But as of October 2020, when I'm reviewing this beer for you guys, they've produced around 150 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. But like I say, probably the most the most famous one, if you like, would be the Pliny the Elder. But you know, the Pliny the Younger is the one that seems to have the most. It's the one that has the biggest whale status, basically, I guess you could say. But yeah, a very, very well respected brewery, this one. I've wanted to try something from these guys for a very, very long time, so I was very lucky that Chris was heading out to California and was able to send me some of these Russian River Brewing beers. I've wanted to try these for a very, very long time, I have to say. So yeah, again, massive thank you to Chris for making this review possible. If you guys want to learn a little bit more about this brewery, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all of the different beers that these guys have done. And yeah, hopefully at some stage, I am planning to go to New England in the summer of 2021, but hopefully, yeah, hopefully on the in some summer beyond that, I can get out to the West Coast and have a look at some of the Californian breweries, film some out and about videos, maybe even some Meet the Brewery segments would be pretty awesome. And yeah, I want to get up to Oregon and Washington as well, because I know that Oregon, Portland in particular, has a great beer scene, and Washington, from what I gather, is great. I've got family up in British Columbia in Canada, so it would be great to get up there again as well. Maybe a nice West Coast trip could be in order actually, but we'll see how we get on with that. But yeah, as I say, check out the links to the brewery in the video description below, but we're going to have a taste of this one now and see how we get on. So like I mentioned to you at the start of the video, this one is an 8% double dry hopped West Coast double IPA. Quite a long-winded name, that I have to say, although back in the day it would have just been called double IPA, but we now have New England, Black, Brut, all of these other kind of things. So yeah, this one is a West Coast double IPA, I would say. So the Pliny the Elder is hopped with Amarillo, Centennial, Simcoe, and also the CTC blend is used for the bittering. So CTZ, CTZ, that is Columbus, Tomahawk, and Zeus. Very spicy, kind of floral aromatic hops. Simcoe, we know, gives you a really lovely oily, passion fruity character when you use it in a more caramelly leaning malt base. It's different, of course, in New England's and black IPAs. Centennial is a lovely kind of nice lemony leaning hop, and Amarillo is that classic oily orange hop. Amarillo was always my favourite hop back in the day. I'm a sucker for these orangey leaning New England IPAs. But as you can see, lovely artwork on this one. It is very kind of presidential, kind of showing you the colours of both the Republican and the Democrat parties. Still find it a bit strange that in America there are only two parties, and the electoral college system I find very confusing, I have to say. But there you can see there is the Russian River brewing symbol there, which is very nice. But I really do hope that I can get out to one of their original, I think probably I would like to go to their original brew pub and film a little bit of an out and about video. It'd be awesome to get Vinny Chilurzo on the channel for an interview as well, so maybe we can organise that when I do make it out to the States. But yeah, really interesting looking beer, this one, and let's just get it out and get on with the tasting. The can, incidentally, is a 473ml can, 1 American pint. I always make fun of the American measurement system because it just, you know, it makes no sense. Cups, quarts, all of these kind of things. Just use the metric system, guys. Milliliters, it's based on water, the universal solvent. But I have to say, you know, I make fun of the American measurement system, but our IPAs and stuff come in 440ml cans, so you do get an extra 23ml of beer, sorry, 33ml of beer out of the American IPAs, so we shouldn't knock it that much because you do get a little bit more beer, so not such a big problem. But yeah, this one I think should be Really quite interesting. So, as you can see with this beer, I actually think this one's a bit brighter than the original Pliny was. I think this one's a little bit more yellow. But yeah, as you can see with this beer, it's poured a lovely bright yellow colour, almost kind of similar to like a Munich Helles or something like that. And of course, the thing that affects the colours of the colour of your beer really is the types of malt that you use and also the length of the boil. From what I gather, this beer really uses mainly crystal and Crystal and American two-row malts, which I really like. They've got a lovely breadiness to them, but also just a nice little bit of a kind of biscuity, caramelly sweetness. Those are probably my two favourite American types of malt. There's lots of different types of two-row and crystal malts, of course, but you can see this beer's poured a lovely kind of bright golden yellow colour, as I said, very akin to like a Munich Helles beer or something like that, and you can see it's poured with I would say about a third finger of a frothy, I would say kind of creamy, almost ivory coloured head on this one. It's definitely not a perfect white head for me, but that's going to fade away and just leave a kind of thin foamy layer on the top and probably quite a fluffy ring around the outside of the glass. This one does have a degree of haze to it, but obviously nowhere near as hazy as you're going to get from the New England IPAs. So yeah, this is the kind of natural haze level that you would expect from a West Coast IPA. And I'll tell you straight away with this one, the aroma that comes out of this is absolutely beautiful. I don't expect this to be too different to the original Pliny. It will probably just be a little bit more kind of fruity and things. As I've told you in videos before, the earlier in the boil that you add hops into your beer, that gives you more bitterness, and then when you move into the last half hour of the boil, generally that's when you get the trade-off between bitterness and the flavour and aroma. So the later you add the hops, essentially, the more likely you are to get flavour and aroma properties from them rather than the bitterness. So yeah, let's have a closer look at the aroma of this one then and see how we get on, but it certainly looks the part. I do think this is a little bit brighter than the original Pliny though, in fairness. Could be imagining things though. So yeah, beautiful smelling beer this one, I have to say. I got a few whiffs of it just when I was moving it around and things, but yeah, the aroma of this one is absolutely lovely. So what you're going to notice with this beer straight away is that lovely kind of bready base to it. Like I said, that's the American Crystal and two-row malts. They've got a lovely kind of smooth bready character to them. I do think it becomes a little bit sweeter and a little bit almost more bread crusty the more you go into it. You do get an almost slightly rye-ish sweetness out of that as well, but it's definitely not rye. It's not kind of strong and spicy enough to be rye, but you do get a bit of that almost kind of sweet, wholemealy type bready quality out of the malt base here in the aroma. But yeah, the aroma of this beer is absolutely lovely. It's a big oily thing for me. So yeah, the nice bready base is in there, a bit of bread crusty quality as well. And you also have, yeah, you've also got some really, really nice, you've got some nice kind of sweet, kind of caramelly and biscuity notes in there. There is a bit of an oily caramel to this one, I would say, but to me it's got a little bit of that McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing, or the Americans would call it cookies, we should say. We should be using the American English because it is a sort of election night special beer, this one, if you like. So yeah, it does have a little bit of that kind of cookie type note to it, or for me, McVitie's digestive biscuit. So yeah, sweet caramel in there, a little bit of McVitie's digestive biscuit, but all of that kind of sits on top of a kind of white bready, bread crusty and slightly wholemeal bready layer as well. I think the malt base in this one for me is quite straight shooting. I think it is quite a straight shooting malt base, and I think I said the same about the Pliny the Elder as well. The malt base is just, it's straightforward, but it is very nicely done. Sometimes simplicity is the best way to go, and I think, you know, this Pliny the Elder really struck me as one of these beers that isn't madly complex, but it's just really, really well crafted, and it is a, you know, it is a classic beer. That I think that's a fair statement to make about Pliny the Elder. On the hoppy side of things, then, the main difference between this one and the original would be that you can smell a bit more of that dustiness. Whenever you dry hop a beer, it does for me come across as being a little bit more kind of dusty in the kind of green side of the hops. So for me, you get a little tiny touch of earthiness out of this one, not a lot, but you get a nice kind of big floral aromaticity out of the beer. But it does come across as slightly smoother, I think, because of that double dry hop. And I think for me, with the New England IPAs, I always felt that you had to leave those in the can for about 10 days, 2 weeks, just to let the green side of the hops settle down a little bit. I think with the West Coasters it's a little bit different. I think, yeah, you need to let the beer just mellow out slightly, but this one, from the aroma, it strikes me as very smooth, so I think we might be getting this one just in its kind of prime condition, if you like. But obviously one thing I really do want to do with these beers is try them fresh at the brewery at some point. That would be awesome. But yeah, the green side of the beer for me is really big and floral and aromatic. I don't find this one spicy, which is unusual because both Tomahawk and Columbus, which are in the CTZ blend, if you like, they would give you a bit of spiciness. But I think the dry hopping might be sort of diverting focus away from that a little bit. So I think this beer doesn't come across as spicy as spicy as the original did, but you might notice a difference in that in the flavour, I have to say. But there is a nice level of grassiness to this one, which is good, and I think that matches some of the zestiness that you would get out of this beer as well. So yeah, in terms of the fruity side of it, then again the fruits come across as being quite oily in this one for me. The whole beer has a sort of oily vibe to it, I would say. But yeah, you get that nice juicy orange from the Amarillo. You can detect the kind of zesty lemon from the Centennial in this one, but the zesty lemon isn't too pungent, if that makes sense. It kind of mixes in with the grassy characters that the beer has, and you get, I think the orange for me is taking the driver's seat in this one, but you do get a bit of that softer tropical fruit from the Simcoe. It's a bit of a soft passion fruit that you're getting at this one. Not quite as oily as Simcoe can be, and do remember that if you use Simcoe as earlier on in the boil, it can give you a hell of a spicy note to it actually, but I suspect that Amarillo and Centennial would do the same. But Simcoe was one that I was very surprised with when I tried a single hop beer, because it does have a hell of a spicy character depending on when it's added. But yeah, the fruitiness in this is kind of what you'd expect. Lovely soft kind of passion fruity notes in there. I think there's a bit of mango to this one as well. If I was blind smelling it, I might actually think this had a bit of citra in it, because it has almost a little bit of a gooseberry undertone to it as well, which is quite which I find quite interesting. But yeah, lovely big oily orangey character from the Amarillo, and a good little bit of a grassy lemony zest, which is the Centennial, that's giving you a lot of that. But basically, beautiful smelling beer, this one. Not the most complex of aromas, I have to say, but just it comes across absolutely beautifully, I have to say. Sometimes, as I was saying, simplicity is the way to go. So yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see how we get on. So this one is the Pliny for President. Do elect him as your president in, what would it be? What's the next one going to be? 2024? Yeah, elect him in 2024. That would be awesome. But yeah, this one is the Pliny for President, a double dry hopped version of the famous Pliny the Elder from Russian River Brewing Company, a double dry hopped West Coast double IPA from Russian River Brewing Company in Santa Rosa in the north of California, over on the West Coast of America. Thank you again to Chris for this beer, for making this one possible. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål. Yeah, that's a beautiful, beautiful beer, I have to say. This one does come across, I will say, the double dry hopping, I think it does come across as quite spicy in the flavour, I have to say, but the dry hopping, of course, is going to give you more flavour and aroma than it is bitterness, to be honest. But yeah, I really like how this one goes together. It's another beautiful beer. It does that dustiness that I was talking about. The kind of dusty qualities that you get from double dry hopping, or dry hopping in general, that is what you get out of this. That's the main difference between this and the original Pliny. This one just feels a little bit more floral almost. I think you do get a bit of that floral quality out of the beer. I don't think it's any more bitter, I think it just feels more kind of aromatic almost. So that's an interesting point to take away from this one. But yeah, this beer is in very, very good condition. I think this is, I might be wrong in saying that, but I think this one is just kind of hitting, it's just in its prime at the moment actually. So yeah, I was a bit worried about this one because I'm not sure, I think this is a seasonal or a special one-off release. So I thought this one would be a really, this was a really good one to I just wanted to kind of get this done and get it out there on the election day. I thought that was a nice time to publish this one. But it is a beautiful beer, this, and this is definitely one of the American breweries that I want to go and visit. That would be awesome. But it's a lovely beer, this one, and again, this kind of shows you that the more bready end of the spectrum for the West Coast double IPAs. The other kind of iconic West Coast IPA for me would be the Torpedo, the Sierra Nevada Torpedo, and that's a more oily, caramelly sort of thing. So for me, these two beers, if you consider those, that really shows the spectrum of what I would consider a West Coast IPA to be. But most of the ones that we had in Europe Some of them are a little bit more bready, some of the breads is a little bit thick. It's almost, some of the German brewed West Coast IPAs are quite thick and bready, but they do have the sweetness in there. So you can in Europe get ones that are slightly more bready than this, but most of the European ones I'd come across leaned more towards the oily end of the spectrum. But it's a beautiful beer, this, as I say. I love how this one goes together. So yeah, where to start with this one then? So straight away across the middle of your palate you get that lovely kind of bready quality there. As I was describing earlier, it's quite similar to what you would expect from the aroma. You can feel that nice white bready thing in there. There's a bit of a bread crusty and slightly grainy note that comes out the further that you go into the aftertaste, and it's kind of assisted in the way that the bitterness gradually builds the further that you go into the aftertaste as well. So on the back third of the tongue you get a really nice, you do get a bit of a nicer, how do you say, you get a bit of a more kind of grainy quality out of the beer. You can feel the breadiness just thickens up a little bit on that back third of your tongue, and at the very back of that bready quality, that's when you get some of the kind of more almost like roasty toast, it's not roasty toasty, but some of the kind of more bitter grainy elements out of the beer. But yeah, as you move further forward you can feel it smoothens out a little bit, and as you move into the middle third of your palate the thickness just drops down, and then you get a lighter, more crisp kind of bready base out of it. But I would say the whole bready base of this beer is actually quite smooth. I really like how that goes together in this one. So yeah, the in the middle of your palate, that's where you get the kind of more brown sugary notes coming out of this beer. So in the very centre of your palate you get a nice kind of oily caramelly note to it. There's a bit of a sweet kind of biscuity quality there as well. As you move out from the centre of your palate you gradually get more and more of a McVitie's digestive biscuity kind of cookie type vibe coming out of this beer, and again it's just beautifully done. It is very, very nice, and that sits on top of that lovely kind of smooth bread, the US Crystal, and the Crystal and the two row malts in here are just coming out beautifully. I really, really enjoyed those malts. I wish they were a bit easier to get over here in Europe, but in fairness you can get some very nice malts from Germany of course, and the English Maris Otter malt is a very nice one that isn't too far away. It's a little bit more grainy than these American malts, but yeah, it is nice, this one. And that's one of the things, if you compare the American beers to the old world beers, if we can say that, they are, pardon me, definitely bigger and sweeter and more fruity. That's a general trend you notice with the American beers. So yeah, this one, I really like the malt base on this one. As you'll know if you've watched the channel for any length of time, the malt base is a big thing for me. Being Scottish, of course, you know, malt plays a very important role in life, let's just say that. But yeah, I do like the way the malt base goes together in this one, and for me a beer has to have a good malty backbone, and this one really does have it. I said the same about the Pliny the Elder in different words of course, but yeah, malt base absolutely solid in this one, but pretty much the same as the Pliny the Elder in terms of how it comes out. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate you do have a little bit of earthiness with this one. As you move further forward you do get a big kind of nice spicy floral aromaticity. That's the Tomahawk and the Columbus. I guess the Zeus will contribute to that as well, but you can feel the spiciness just builds on the side of the palate there. You do get a little hint of resin, piney resiny quality, but for me it's more a kind of green sort of spicy floral aromaticity that comes out of this beer. As you go round the front curve of the tongue it's just a little bit lighter and grassy, which I do like, and that the green side of the beer for me is really nice. You can detect a little bit of that kind of dusty, kind of hop dusty note on the side of the palate too, which is very nice. But yeah, I do like how how that goes together. On the front third of your tongue then you've got a nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters push their way out of the beer. And yeah, if you go towards the back of that front third of your palate you will get a little bit of a kind of there is a wee touch of a kind of grapefruity note to this one. It does have a little bit of that dark pungent grapefruity note, but as you move further forward from that you start to get the slightly less pungent but still quite strong passion fruity flavour. That's the Simcoe that's going to give you that, and as you move further forward the Simcoe just kind of mellows out a little bit and it gives you a wee touch of a kind of mango, maybe even a little bit of an apricotty or peary flavour in there. But as you reach the front part of that front third of your tongue there's a distinctly more oily orangey quality to the beer, and that is the that is the Amarillo that's giving you that. And then on the very front edge of the palate, you've got some nice lemony citrusy notes, and that's the Centennial that's really going to give you a lot of that. So yeah, the flavour profile of the fruits in this is nice. Again, it's quite oily, but I would say with the fruits in this beer, they do come across as being a little bit more kind of bitter and almost just a little bit more zesty, if you like, and that probably will be due to the dry hopping aspect that we have with this beer. So yeah, I would say that the fruits in this one for me are not quite as oily and juicy, if you like, but they are a bit more just almost aromatic and bitter, which is quite interesting. So I really like how that goes together in this beer, to be honest with you. The way the fruits come out is very, very nice. So yeah, it just has a little bit more kind of aromaticity and brightness to it, this beer, I guess, than the other one did. The other one was a little bit more oily, as I say, but I like this one. I like both of them, to be honest with you. It's quite hard to pick which one I would prefer, but yeah, both very, very solid beers, and they are pretty much the same apart from a little bit of dry hopping, as we said. So yeah, if you want a slightly more aromatic version of Pliny the Elder, this is going to please your palate, so to speak. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, let's get the last of this into the glass. I would say that mouthfeel wise, this beer, it's kind of, I would say it's sort of bottom end of mid-bodied, sorry, not bottom end of mid-bodied, bottom end of full-bodied for me. It's kind of sitting in that sort of region. But yeah, it's got a lovely oily character to it, this one. The carbonation is very smooth, and yeah, I would describe the beer overall as being very oily. In terms of its mouthfeel, it's not the most oily West Coast IPA that you're going to come across, because like I said, it leans more towards the bready end of the spectrum than the caramelly end. But yeah, nice little bit. Nice kind of big floral aromaticity to this one. The bitterness has to be about 80 IBUs in this. I think this one has to be way up at that end of the spectrum, and it does feel a little bit more bitter than I remember the Pliny the Elder feeling. But yeah, you've got a nice little bit of lighter grassiness there. The malt base has a smooth breadiness, some nice kind of sweet caramelly notes in there as well, and a little bit of a kind of oily juicy fruity note too, but I think the fruits are a little bit more kind of aromatic in this one as well. So for me, this whole beer just has more of an aromatic vibe to it than the original Pliny did. The original one was a bit more bready and kind of oily, if you like. So I really like how that how it goes together in this one. So yeah, this beer was a little bit more of a novelty, I think, than the well, both of them being a novelty, but I think this one, with it being a very seasonal release or a special release, I think this one is even more of a novelty than the original Pliny the Elder was. But again, a beautiful, beautiful beer, this one, and it's definitely worth trying if you get the chance. One of the classic West Coast IPAs. I'd be very curious to see some of the other styles of beer that Russian River do. It'd be cool to try like a lager, a black IPA. If they have a New England IPA, that could be very interesting as well. I wish some of the New England breweries would have a go at brewing the West Coast IPAs, but safe to say this is another beautiful, beautiful beer from these guys, and I recommend that you check it out if you get the chance. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. It's another solid beer, but you know, you can see exactly why this brewery have the reputation that they do. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Russian River Brewing Company. We will no doubt return to these guys at some point in the hopefully fairly near future. But yeah, good luck to America with their presidential election. I think maybe in 2024 electing Pliny might not be such a bad idea. But yeah, this one has been a really, really nice beer. I've enjoyed reviewing these Russian River ones. Massive thank you to Chris once again for making this possible. But yeah, let me know your own thoughts on the beer in the comment section below. Let me know your favourite beers from Russian River. Check out my social media, and I will catch you guys very, very soon. This one was the Pliny for President, the double dry hop version of the famous Pliny the Elder. This one, a double dry hopped West Coast double IPA coming in at 8% ABV from Russian River Brewing Company in Santa Rosa in the north of California, over on the west coast of America. Thank you again for watching, and I'll catch you guys later. Slàinte, skål, cheers. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll catch you very soon. Skål, cheers.